Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. And my name is Rianat Abbas. I am so excited to be your host for today as we talk about how businesses can unlock the value of data, how they can make smart strategic decision using data. So whether you are a data enthusiast, a business leader, or you are just like curious about how data is being used to drive business growth, I would say this is like the right space to be at the moment. So thank you for joining us. We have an exciting thing lined up for us today. And just before we go into the main discussion, we have like quite a number of agenda. We have like just talking about Technovelle for the new people that are just getting to know Technovelle for the first time, and also talk about our team. And towards the end, we have a sponsor data analytics course that we run during the month, and we'll just be announcing the winner for that. Just before we go or get started, just a little bit about Technovelle. We are just a group of VI community that are passionate about making emerging technology practical and at the same time understandable. We bring together tech professionals just like the way we are doing today, businesses, industry experts, to help us like navigate the constantly evolving tech ecosystem that we have, especially in data, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. So we have like our mission. What are we actually like driving towards? We are looking at empowering people with insights on the latest trends and not overwhelming them with like so many things that are happening. So we are doing that through our roundtables. We have insights, we have reports, and we break down all those things down so that professionals and business leaders can stay informed and also confident in the space. And what our key vision is to build a future where innovation can drive opportunity. We want to be the trusted community in the tech space that can help you make sense of complexity and most especially the emerging trends. So beyond just Technovelles, we have what we do. So what exactly do we do at Technovelle? We have like a couple of things. We have our monthly roundtable, just like the one we are doing right now. So here we bring in tech briefings on trends. You know, if there is any breaches, we bring in and invite experts in the field to talk about it and also educate our communities. We also have the Daily Tech Trends Digest. If you have followed Technovelle, or if you haven't followed Technovelle, please do follow us. I'll be sharing our community handles in the next slide. But we also share this Daily Tech Trends Digest so people will not feel overwhelmed. There are too many information going on right now in the space about there is AI, there's cybersecurity. So what we are doing mainly is to digest all this information into bite-sized updates so that you can just like skim through it when you are having your morning coffee or preparing for work. And lastly, we have our Technovelle community. We are building a space for learning, for connection, for opportunities, and our members have access to like different resources. I'm trying to like grow that community to ensure that beyond just events, we are also looking at creating, job opportunities and learning resources that will really help our community to grow. So this, for those that haven't really like joined Technovelle community, we have we're available on almost all platforms. We have LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Substack. So I would just like be putting this for like just a few seconds for those that haven't like joined us to go through that. So thank you so much for joining us in this particular journey. And we cannot talk about Technovelle without talking about the team. We have like some brilliant minds that are putting all those things together, from curating what is happening to organizing the events, and also ensuring that learning continues in the community. We have my co-founder, which is like Victoria Ogunsanya. I already introduced myself, and also Dorcas Oyebode. These are just like the three powerful people that are leading what is happening in Technovelle. And of course, we have our social media manager as well, and our graphic designer will ensure that everything is being done in a more visual way. And today is exactly what we'll be looking at, the discussion. We are moving towards the main discussion part, the reason why we are here today, and why everyone are curious about data. And just to give a little bit introduction about our guest speaker, we have Abrar Ahmed, who happen to have 15 years of experience. So we bring in like a thought leader and experts, someone that is rich in experience to give us and talk to us about how we can make better decisions and drive business growth as professional in the field. So he's currently an advisor, application designer at Gatewell Technologies. So he understands how to use data-driven insight to help businesses make smarter decisions. And that is why, as professionals and business leaders, and let me say tech professionals, one of the things that happen to be our selling points is how can we better make the companies, the businesses that we work with, drive insights and make smarter decisions. So thank you everyone for joining, and we'll be moving to like the main discussion of the day. And so just like to start with, before we go into anything, I would like to say, if you are joining from anywhere in the world, I don't know where, just try to put your name, where you are joining from, your location, and also your LinkedIn if you feel like connecting in the chat section, just to make it interactive. So let me stop sharing for now. Yeah. So just to make it interactive, try to drop your location as well, and where you are joining from. So over to our guest speaker today, which is like Abrar. So we know that there have been like a whole lot of things that has been happening in the industry for quite years. I will say currently we know that data is everywhere. Like every company is using data, but not every company knows how to use data. So we are seeing businesses collecting massive amounts of data from customers, operations, marketing, different areas. But it's one thing to collect data, it's another thing to turn the data into value. So these are like two different things. So from your own point of view, as an expert in the field, what would you say, or what does a successful data strategy look like for growing business?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Rianat, and the whole team. You're doing a great job. Before we get into the discussion, I want to thank you, and I'm looking forward to more sessions from you in the future as well. So coming back to the question that you asked about the data strategy, I think data strategy is key in any business, and whether it's a small business or a large scale business or an enterprise scale business. You need to have data points to look at your objectives of your business and define your performance key indicators, saying that, okay, these data points are important for me to track my progress in the business. And then use the data parameters to make those data-driven insights and decisions. Where do you want to invest your future finances to grow your business even more, right? So having your objectable goals and translating those goals into data-driven solutions is really key. For example, right, Amazon uses data-driven insights, right? And 35% of the business that comes from Amazon is from recommendations, and the way they come to the recommendation is based on the data, right? They take the data, they take what customers are feeling, and then they take the new trends and come up with recommendations. And same happens with Netflix, same happens with YouTube, right? All these big tech giants, they use the data to drive their customers into their business growth, right? So I think there's a saying that's like, in God we trust and everyone else get data, right? I mean, it's true in this day and age that we need to focus on our data. We'll talk more about how what parameters we need to consider when we are building a database solution, right? So For me, I think data strategy is really critical, and it's one of the most important things in business growth.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, like, I love the fact that you touch based on like how Netflix use our data, like the big giant Amazon, because anytime I try to shop, it also gives me like sense into how they showed me recommendation. And it's sort of like a big way for them to hook me on that platforms to probably even shop for things that I did not even want to. So I thank you so much for like bringing that up. I would like to pass the next question to like Folashade, which happened to be the co-founder to lead the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rianat. Thank you, Said. It's good to have you here today. My question to you will be, how can organization build a culture that encourage back data decisions?
Yeah, so the data decisions, right? You need to have a data culture, right? To build that data culture, you need to constantly improve your accuracy of the data. You have to cleanse your data to make sure data comes in and data is polished for us to make those decisions, right? So these are very key. And also sometimes there's resistance from within the industry or within the organization to use the data because it doesn't give you the complete picture, right? So for us to make sure data culture is here, right? We need to uh, we need to democratize data. We need to have a data literacy where you can teach what data it is, right? How do you identify the different categories of data and schemas and whatnot, and um, having your overview, a 360 view of data from your data inception, where you get the data and processing the data and storing the data into formatable views and tables and using them for insights. We have to make sure our organizations get onto the data at very early stage so they know how we are getting this data, how we are analyzing the data, cleansing the data, and are going to use that data for our data-driven insights. And majority of the organizations, especially in healthcare, is right. We get variety of data. We get data in voice notes from doctors. We get data from images. We get data from the health records, the public healthcare records. We get data from the diagnostic um, organizations. So the variety of data that we get in healthcare, it's very hard if you do not have a proper data strategy or a data framework to integrate these many data sources into your system, right? And then use that for driving the decisions. A person can look at this data and just say, okay, we need to make this decision, but a human cannot process these amount of huge sums of data at a scale, right? So we need a system where we can automate some of these systems. How do we integrate the data? How do we collect the data? How do we cleanse the data? How do we build governance around the data and also teach data, right? The main thing for us to build trust within the organization and even outside the organization with our end clients is to trust our data. And so that is key in success of data strategy.
Thank you. You really explained it well.
Thanks so much, Abrar. Thank you for that. So you dropped a lot of like gems for us to like take out with, and the next one will be passing to like Victoria Ogunsanya.
All right, thank you, Abra, for the insight so far. My question to you would be, considering the fact that resource limitation is a major constraint across organizations worldwide, right? So what would you advise, or how would you advise companies to prioritize the data projects with limited resources? So once they don't have so much resources, so how do you advise, or what's your advice to organizations to aid them in prioritizing their data projects, especially, and to ensure that they're able to derive optimal actualization of the data strategy? So that's my question to you.
Yeah, so going back to our data strategy, right? How do you come up with a data strategy? you have to have your objectable goals, the key objectives of your business that you want to grow, and translate those into data strategies, right? And coming back to resource constraints and not being able to invest into data platforms at the early stage of business, right? Which is acceptable, even for a small business organizations or a huge organization. They don't want to invest in data platforms at very early stage. So what they need to do is, right, they need to look at the data strategies and come up with their top 3 KPIs and say, okay, I want to focus on these top 3 KPIs that would reflect my business growth, and take those high impact business goals and translate those into data solutions, rather than focusing on holistic view of getting every data and start building a huge framework where you can integrate the data into different sources and build solutions. Just focusing on a particular KPI and particular area of business growth and going into that and enhancing your business based on that. And then once you see success, right, and celebrate the success, and then go next step and define another KPI, right? And in some cases, it's very hard to even invest in a open source tools or a self-service analytics tools, right? There's so many other things that are available in the market, right, that are free to use. We can use those tools to scale our business analytics, and you have to pay as you go, right? And then once you figure out that you have a proper business strategy, then start investing your finances into data platform. And I would focus on key top 3 KPIs for cost-effective solutions.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you so much. You mentioned KPIs, and I tried to also like note that down, because I know that one of the key things that it's so important as business or as a professional is not just understanding something, but also understanding the key performance indicators. And so thank you so much for like mentioning that. To our audience, you can also like drop your questions in the chat section, and there will also be opportunity for us to also take some live questions if we have any live questions too. Well, please do well to drop your questions in the comment section. And there is a whole lot of I think for many businesses, the next question that I also sort of have most often is, how do all those things, how do we actually want to achieve them, and how can businesses align their data strategy with their overall goals? I know you already like touch based on KPIs, you talked about like strategy, but from business standpoint, how can they actually align their strategy, their data strategy with their overall goals to ensure that everyone is in loop and they are considering that in every decisions that they are making?
Yeah, so integrating data into business, right? First, you need how you want to do your data engineering, and then how you have to set up your data governance. Most of the organizations that we work with in the industry, they are compliant with especially in healthcare, it's HIPAA compliance or CMS, Medicaid, Medicare, GDPR. You have to remain compliant. There are huge penalties if you're not in compliant with the data regulations, right? And then we have data analytics platform. Then they have data product team, right? The product team is the bridge between the IT and the business, where they take the products that you build and use it for growth and project it across the end users, right? And having these silos of different teams or different group of people working together and using that for our effective data strategy solutions is key, right? And it again goes back to the same thing, right? If you want to grow your business, you need to know what you want to do, right? You have to have a strategy, right? And once you have the strategy, then you see how you can get your data to tell you a story about that goal, right? If I have to go, for example, right, customer retention. I want to do a customer retention, right? Now I have to go back and look at my data and see what are my data points for customers, right? Are we getting frequent feedback from customers? And how many times is customer returning, right? And what's our referral strategy like? And so looking at the data, we have to come up with a solution. Like if you are if we're going to focus on customer retention, then you have to focus on your customer feedback that you see in the data, right? And for example, if you're happy with your customer retention, but you don't see a growth in a new business customers, right? Then you have to see how industry is going, right? Integrate the data from across the industry, whether it's entertainment or healthcare or any other industry, aviation or anything. Look at what's trending and what people are wanting to see more, and translate that into your data and see what you're trying to do and what actually is being working in the industry, and how do you translate that, right? So it's like we have seen traditional analytics like year on year, month on month, quarter on quarter analysis, and analyzing the data from previous quarter to this quarter, which works well, right? But for us to actually use our performance indicators into translating that into business growth is key, right? So I keep going back to the same point again and again, right? So it's like you need to know what you're trying to do with your business, and you always have data with you because you are in the business and you have people working for you to enable that business. So we know what we do, right? But we need to know what we want to go, right? Where do we want to go with this business? That is going to be really key.
Yeah, I love that you are going back to the fact that we need to know what we want to do, because what you want to do will determine the kind of data that you will gathered, and that will really also help you determine, okay, I'm in this industry. So thank you for touching base on making data industry specific. You know, if you're in healthcare, if you're in finance, understanding what is trending, that will help you to know the kind of data to gather and make sense of it, and also integrate it in your decision making. So Folashade, would you like to take on the next question, please?
For sure. Thank you, Rianat. My question will be, how can a company measure their business growth with data? Is there a way to navigate that, like what tools and all of that?
So tools, coming back to the tools, right? So you have the data, you have the goals, and you have the metrics, right? That you want to track, right? Everything is sorted out, right? Now you need to see how you can translate those into data-driven insights and data-driven decisions. And everyone loves visual, right? We need to have a visual representation of how our data looks like. We have tools like Power BI and Tableau and Google Data Lab, right? And several open source tools and cloud-based tools like AWS Visual Insights and whatnot. And we can use them to quickly analyze the data from what we already have in our KPIs using a visual representation, and so that it gives you a clear picture of what's going on. And we also use predictive analytics to predict what is going to happen. And so with the integration of AI and ML into data, it's only enhancing the data even more further, right? So with predictive analytics and personalized tailored strategies, it gives you a clear indication of where we are going and where do we need to focus on using these tools that help you come up with that visual representation of your data to make those data-driven insights and decisions.
Great. Thank you. So we have, like, we've talked about the opportunities, we've talked about how they can integrate it into the business. And no, we cannot talk about all those opportunities, tools, without talking about the challenges as a whole. You know, for every data currently, there will be like the challenges. So I will be passing it to like Victoria, Ogunsanya, to touch base on like what are the likely things that we are getting from our community regarding the challenges.
All right, thank you, Rianat. So, Abra, my question would be, you've spoken so much about implementation, execution, fantastic. You've said so much and it's been so insightful. I've gained so much insight today. My question with regards to overcoming challenges would be, what do you think are the biggest barrier to adopting a data-driven mindset, especially, for a small business, trying to push data as a strategy, as a mindset within the community? What do you think are the biggest barrier or challenges with respect to adopting a data-driven mindset within a small business to start with?
Yeah, I think we need to come over the resistance for change. In some industries, right, it's very hard for us to change the mindset of the people. So we need to work on that, right? We need to use strategies like data literacy, data democratization, having uh, uh, data schemas, and having explaining the data, right? Right. How do we explain the data? What it has and what information it has? That's where you have XAI, explainable AI, comes into picture, where it can explain actually what's going on with the data, right? Right. So understanding of the data is really key, and how do we translate that into our day-to-day workflow of business, and how do we impact the data is really important. And it's not just the IT or business analysts that need to worry about it. It has to be across all the departments that are in the organization that have access to the data, and that has a clear understanding of the data. And we have to make sure we train the people within the company to tell them more details of how we are using our data, and what are we getting into our system, and how we translate those into our key data points for our business and whatnot, right? So I think this is one important thing where you drive your data-driven culture within the organization. The second thing is the data cleansing, right? We get data from different sources. We need to make sure we have a proper strategy to cleanse the data at very early stage in the data pipeline, so that the bad data doesn't flow into the downstream applications and impact the decisions, right? um, it's really important, because if you want to drive decisions based on data, you need the end customers, or even yourself, you want to trust the data. Like if you have a transparency and trust with the data, it's easier to adopt, right? If you doubt your data, so saying that, okay, this is not accurate, or this is not complete, I want this information but this is not there, right? So I mean, to avoid those kind of situations, right, we need to make sure our data is complete, our data is accurate, and it's audited and properly um, um, managed at very early stage, so that we don't run into issues with uh, bad insights at the end of the our cycle, right? Data insight cycle. The other thing is, right, industry compliance. We have to make sure we are in compliance with data governance across the industry, whichever industry you work with, whether it's a banking and healthcare is key. I mean, the sensitive nature of data in banking and healthcare, PHI, PI plays a very key role. When you're working in industries like these, you have to make sure you have a proper data governance and framework for this to handle those. And and your cross teams needs to be aligned with your goals, right? And the bridge between the business and IT is the product teams, the product managers, right? They have a real role to play to make sure everyone across the board, from business side to the IT side, is aligned, and we're working towards one goal of making sure our data strategy is used for business. And you talked about how we can use it for small businesses, right? I think the key is, right, once you define your business objectives, once you have your KPIs, for small businesses where the revenue on investment is less, right, and overall cost of running an organization is less, you need to focus on high KPIs, or so that which is more cost effective, and just focus on top 3. And once you see success in those top 3, and try to scale it for more, right? And with data, you always need to get a feedback, right? So you run a whole cycle of data, and then you see that, okay, these data is not helping us making the decision. Then you give a feedback loop to the source and say, okay, how do we correct the data at the source itself, so that we have proper checks and balances to improve our data, right? So I think these are the key things. And with any technology, there's always adoption challenges, especially from the non-technical side of the business. So making them transparent, making them trust the data is key, right? So it's all about building that data-driven culture, right? And also seeing the success, and you need to celebrate your success when you see data success stories, right? So that everyone gets encouraged to be involved with the data.
Yeah, those are like those are solid points. You made mention of compliance, data governance, and I feel like these are the kind of discussions that's supposed to be making the limelight. It's not just about using the data, but staying compliant, understanding the data governance, and also most especially the non-technical team that you made mention of. I'm working as a product manager, I understand the importance of using data to drive decision making. So beyond just the technical team, letting the non-technical team also, understand, and for every innovation, for every concept that comes out in tech, there's always like its own challenges. So thank you also for sharing the insights on how small businesses can also leverage and build their own data culture. So we have like just, should I say one question or like 2 questions before we throw it out to our audience? We are currently in, let me say, the predictive world, when we are talking about tools that are powered by artificial intelligence, machine learning that can easily detect like the trends, predict behavior. I know that all those things are not new to the big tech industry, and even help us to write content, right? So, but with all the powers that we talked about, the real decisions for business leaders comes with like, what exactly do we need to automate when it comes to data? What are the things that needs to stay human when it comes to data? So from your own point of view, how do you see AI and machine learning shaping the future of data strategy in business, especially now that they are automating things and people are sort of like not sure which of the decision making is to still stay humans and which one should we automate?
Yeah, so with AI and ML into picture, right? So we always had challenges with data speed and data accuracy. Data speed is already taken care with cloud computing and edge computing and quantum computing coming into picture, and scaling the resources and servers on the fly, adding more resources, removing resources when you don't need it, right? Scaling up and down on cloud computing is really fast, and processing the data at speed has gone up a lot. And earlier it used to take days or months to get that insight. Now you get the real-time data insights using the AI ML tools, right? And which is already taken care, right? So what we need to focus on is the data accuracy, which even the best of the LLMs, right, or algorithms that you have, right, it requires a reinforced learning, where you need to constantly look at your models and see what part of the model is not accurate. Some of the models that you see in any industry is like 99% accurate, and there's always scope for error, and there's always scope for adoption, right? We need to make sure we have a reinforced strategy where we can use these models to enhance our real-time decision making and faster analytics. And on the other side, we need to make sure these models improve themselves, like self-improving, self-reinforcing, self-learning is the right word, so that we take the feedback of these systems, the LLMs, and provide the same input into the algorithms that we're going to train the data on, and to improve the results, right? And all it goes back to again the data accuracy, right? And your models, your AI tools is as good as your data, uh, right? And as good as your how data cleansing and data strategy and everything that you deal with data, right? It's really important to highly use effectively these AI and ML solutions. Consider like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, there was no AI, there was BI, business intelligence. And we have used BI tools like Tableau, Power BI, MicroStrategy, which is now strategy. And there's several other tools that we have used to build those data analytics solutions, right? And build graphs and predictive analytics and whatnot. Right? So I think data has always been there. AI's ML is only enhancing it to make it more faster and more tailored strategies. Um, I'll give you a couple of examples, right? In New York, there was a hospital called uh, Mount Sinai, right? During COVID pandemic, right? We have seen a pile of dead bodies in a black trash bags in the corner of the room piling up, right? And there were so many deaths that happened in the pandemic. And New York and Italy were the two main big cities that were impacted. And we don't know how to manage our bed availability and resource availability, and doctors were really worked up, right? So what they did was, right, they partnered with an IT company called Semaphore. They used this predictive technique, which connected hospitals across the cities. They were able to predict bed availability. They were able to predict when the patients would discharge, and they were also able to predict how many new patients they're going to get just based on data, right? So it's like a need of the hour during these times, like where we have pandemics, and we need to make sure we align our business with these tech strategies so that we can leverage our full potential, right? um, the another thing is, right, during Black Friday the sales go up, right? And you have seen scaling up, and after the season gets over it comes down. And having scalable solutions, having scalable data strategies where you can invest in data strategies during that time, right? I can invest in a huge data platform for during that time where I can make the most of my business, right? Most of my profits, if are going to be in those few months of season, where then I have to be ready to scale my business to implement those strategies, so that I can make full potential of that business opportunities, right? So I think it's all tied to how you want to drive your business, right? And how do you use the data? And even though the new technologies are there, that won't help you if your data is not accurate, right? So you need to make sure you integrate your data from different sources that of your business, so that you make a more 360 view of your data, and drive those data insights and decisions.
Right. Well, thank you. Can you? Oh,
Yes, we can hear you, Rianat.
yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing a whole lot about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And you talked so much about businesses understanding what they want to do with data before they can even talk about or think about automation. So right now we'll be opening this floor to our audience. I know that we have someone in the audience that would like to ask a live question. So we'll take that first. Then there's another person that dropped a question here as well. So for the live question, could you please unmute your mic, Ibrahim?
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you, our able speaker. It has been an amazing session, and thank you for the provision of your speech so far. So my question is, how can business balance and the need for data-driven growth strategies with the increased importance of protecting sensitive customer data and preventing cyber threats?
Yeah, so I think in any industry, right, regulations for the data are critical. We need to make sure our data is secure and we cannot compromise our customers' data, right? That is really key. I mean, you cannot falter on that front, especially in healthcare. There are huge penalties if you um, uh, um, falter on data governance and data security, especially leak those PHI and PI information. So for us to balance between our data-driven solutions and the sensitive nature of data, it whenever you build your data governance platform or data analytics platform, you need to make sure you consider those scenarios where you have sensitive data, and you need to have a role-based access control where what who can use what data, right? And we always have sensitive data in our systems, and a role-based access control, which we call RBAC, is really key. So who gets to see what and who is seeing what, right? Audit, balance, and control. We call it ABC, audit, balance, and control, so that we know, right, who is seeing what data and who gets to see what data, so that at least we are covered on that front, so that we can provide our solutions in a more secure way. And we also need to make sure who can access the servers, to make sure it's in compliance and it's in more um, mm, secure secure network, so that the outside of network are not able to access our systems and whatnot. Right. So I think it goes back to, right, you cannot compromise on data security at all, and that is single most important thing when you're building a data governance solution. What we can do is, right, with AI coming into picture, you can um, generate the data similar to the data that you have, and with sample PHI and PII. You don't need to use the real information. You can use a um, uh, simulated information of PHI and PII, and generate the data based on your data and use that for your analytics. If you're not sure, oh, my data is not so secure and my process is not so secure, if I leak the data, I'll run into issues, then you can use this Gen AI to simulate the data similar to your live data, and use that for your insights. And then once you have your strategy figured out, how you can implement that on your data in a more secured platform.
Thank you so much for talking on that. I mean, I believe we have like diverse audience, not only people in data, and talking about security, governance, and putting the right auditing and access in place is one important, the security part of data is also the important thing for us to pay attention to. And we'll be taking this as the last question because of the time, but we have like one question here from Abdus, and the question is, what are the most efficient methods for analyzing data quickly, then identifying the trends and making fast, informed decisions?
Okay, so analyzing the data quickly, right? A real-time decision making is really key, right? And we always have heard hospitals and doctors and providers say that, okay, you got the patient like, oh, a couple of hours late, or maybe you should have got this patient yesterday, right? We would have saved him, right? So those kind of situations where you need real-time decision making, and we have seen like, okay, there's an issue happening at the end point of a business, and the customers are not happy, and the news spread viral on the social media, right? How do you do that, right? And real-time decision making is really key, right? Where you take the sentiment analysis of your end customers with their live feedback and based on their input, and just see what you can do to improve those businesses, right? So coming back to real-time decision making, or right, um, it's there are streaming devices which can stream the data from your businesses into your data platform. It using them to embed the data like Kafka or Flink or Kinesis, where it can stream the data from your business systems into the data platform. And these are all cloud-based solutions where you can scale up and down based on your need. Right? You don't have to invest in a huge platform at the beginning of your business. Right? You can grow as you go along. Right? Investing in those cloud-based solutions where you invest a little bit and then see how things go on your customer feedback or the patient outcome feedback or the recent trends in the market, right? And social media sentiments, right? Take those inputs as your data streams and use that in your cloud environment to quickly analyze the data. And they have visualization tool like AWS VI, and you can integrate those to the other tools where like Looker and Tableau and other tools where you can quickly pass those data in as an input to the BI tools and get those information. And AI itself provides you insights with a simple graphic information with using the LLMs, which is also really cool, right? So I think real-time decision making is going to be huge, especially in this era of AI virtual doctors and telemedicines and remote healthcare and home care patients and customer support for the people who use phones and a lot, right? Technology and the social media sentiments, and we know how viral things can go on social media, and just taking that as your source to make those real-time decision making is key, right? And we have seen like Southwest came up with a strategy where they said, "Oh, no back, we are not going to check the bags for free," and then the other businesses like Frontier took advantage of it, say, "Okay, no, we are going to check the bags for free." Right? They use that sentiment of people not being happy with Southwest, and then use the same sentiment to market their new strategy, which is like, "Oh, we are going to check the bags for free." Right? So it's looking at those real time data in your social media and your business area, and making the decisions is going to be really key.
Great. Thank you so much for distilling that. Like we've had I'm just talking from my own personal perspective, and I feel it is also the same to everyone in the room today. So thank you so much. This has been a great conversation so far. So from the Technovelle team, I just want to say thank you to our amazing guests, Abrar, for breaking things down like so clearly. I've learned so much about, in fact, KPIs, and also having to start thinking about automation, which part of our decision making should we start automating. So thank you to everyone here who asked questions and those who also joined in the space of making the comment section bubbling. We are moving towards the end of our today's session, but we still have like a few things to touch base on. If you have been following our social media platform for some weeks now, we are currently looking at not only bringing this kind of discussion into limelight, but also empowering people in our community, especially those that have been joining Technovelle the past couple of weeks. So the past couple of weeks, we started something called trying to empower people on data analytics course. Not only are we bringing sessions like this to the limelight, we are also ensuring that you are staying up to date, refreshing your skills. So we did something like join Technovelle and win the free data analytics course. So today we'll be announcing the winners, the prospective winners for the course for the giveaway, data analytics course giveaway that we posted some weeks back. And we have checklists of things that are meant to be done. We had a lot of people that submitted the applications or that submitted and expressed interest in this particular data analytics course. So we want to say thank you to everyone that put into the raffle, and we saw everything. We saw all the comments. We saw how you express your interest. We are really glad that you did that, and we hope we'll be able to accommodate more winners in the coming, like in the subsequent months. That's why we'll also say, please follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Twitter, on all of our social media platforms, because we have like interesting things to bring more, just beyond just course winners. We have a lot of resources that we'll be sharing as well. So for this month, we have a couple of people. We have gifts, although we are not really sure if they are here, but this is just officially like announce our winners, and we'll follow up on them later on after this call. So thank you so much for everyone that puts in efforts to fill the form and also do some of the things that we talked about, some of the tasks that we gave them. Thank you for everyone that joined today's session. We know there were a little bit of like miscommunication with the time zone, but please help us to celebrate those that win this particular month data analytics course. Thank you so much, everyone. We are putting up our social media handles again. We know this is meant to be just for 1 hour, so we want to stick with the 60 minutes time frame. So I'm going to put this on here for anyone that haven't really joined us. We have interesting things that will be coming up later on the next month. Our roundtable is every month, so please do well to join our community. Follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Beyond that, we have other things that we'll also be sharing with you as well. So thank you so much, Abrar, for joining us today. Thank you to everyone that joined us, and also apologies for the miscommunication in the time zone for those that were not able to join this particular session today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for inviting. It was really a pleasure to share my knowledge, and thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.